everybody, it's Elisa. I'm back. We're going over the digestive system, and this time we're going to continue on with the tongue. We're going to talk a little bit about the palate, and we're going to start discussing the teeth. So here's the tongue in all of its glory. So we talked a little bit before about the idea of the body and the root of the tongue, and so here we see the body of the tongue, and then like the little divide, you can literally see the topography change before we get to the root of the tongue. Back here is the epiglottis proper, the lingual tonsils are right down here, the palatine tonsils down here on the side. The terminal sulcus is that little dip that actually catches right here. The velate papillae are kind of right, these larger, right, kind of V-shaped, right, papillae, larger ones that are coming out. The foliate papillae are kind of here down on the sides. And then the fungiform papillae, which are going to be kind of spotted a little bit more towards the tip of the tongue. Some of the intrinsic muscles of the tongue include buccinator right here, right? So right here on the cheek. Styloglossus, which is going to be up here, tongue proper. Hyoglossus, which is going to actually connect down here a little bit more down towards the hyoid bone, which is like it's in the family of the jaw, right? It's kind of interesting. It's like a miniature jaw down there. We use it to speak, among other things. Genioglossus, as well, is like a larger muscular patch in the body of the tongue. This is just the bone in the mandible. This is the sublingual gland here. This is the submandibular gland, right? So here's the mandible, and here's like, that's why it's submandibular, and this is sublingual, right under the tongue. Mylohyoid muscle is going to be attaching from the mandible all the way down to hyoid bone. And then we already talked about the hyoid bone itself. All right. So the palate is going to be the nasal cavity and like the oral cavity, like on the maxilla, right? On the maxilla, are actually kind of like connected. And so this area here has to kind of fill in and separate into two components. And so that's generally like one of those areas is known as the palate. And that separates the oral cavity and the nasal cavity. In humans, it makes it possible for us to breathe while we're chewing food. So that's super helpful. It's a hard, bony plate. It's supported by the palatine process of the maxilla and the palatine bones. The palatine rugae are the transverse ridges that are going to help the tongue hold and manipulate food right in the back of the mouth. I'm just ball. Okay, it's like not a great drawing. Anyway, so the soft palate is going to be posterior to the hard palate. So, and then the pharynx, here's like pharynx right up here. Here's like teeth. And so up here is going to be hard palate. And then this will be like the soft palate. And it's like the soft palate's the one where like, I don't know about you guys, but when I have allergies, it's like itches in the back of my throat. That like in the back of my mouth, really, that's it. It's more spongy and flexible in texture. It's composed of skeletal muscle and glandular tissue, but it doesn't have any bone, unlike the hard palate. The uvula is a conical shape like hanging ball at the back of the mouth. It helps us retain the food in the mouth until it's ready to swallow, and there's some other stuff we imagine but don't really know about yet. A pair of muscular arches on either side of the oral cavity are going to be the palatoglossal arch. So that one's coming up front to the anterior component. And then the palatopharyngeal, right, arch, which is going to tell you it's going to be moved over the back or the posterior component of that mouth. The palatine tonsils are located on the wall between each one of these arches. So the teeth. When we refer to the teeth, you go to the dentist, they are the dentition. Their job is very simple. Like there's some talking and some other things, but for the most part, what they're doing is they're masticating, mashing up, and bashing the food to chew it up into smaller, more manageable pieces, and also to help mix in saliva, which is going to be full of things like enzymes and pH modifiers that's going to speed that chemical component of digestion. In the adults, should you have all of your teeth, including your wisdoms, you should have 32. So it's like 16 in the mandible, 16 in the maxilla. And they are the two incisors, are the two up front. So those are like the scissor teeth right up there. You also have like kind of major and then the minor incisors. And then you have your vampire teeth, right? So those are your canine teeth, right? So you have one of those. Your premolar teeth kind of going here, right? A little bit ridgy, right? So we're starting to see like the emergence of cusps. Sorry, draw it on the other side, right? Conceptual symmetry as well as visual symmetry. And then the three molars proper are going to be in the back, and that includes one that you might have extracted, right? So your wisdom teeth. Some people grow in and it's like just fine. Here, yeah, so those are all molars here. So the alveolus is what we call like the tooth socket in the bone, right? So it's like, here's all the sockets, and then here's where the teeth sit, and so that is the alveolus. And so it's interesting because this is the only place in the body where this one joint is found, and it's formed, and it's called the gomphosis, right? It's a gomphosis. It's a peg in socket. Peg in socket type joint. The connective tissue that's holding it together is the periodontal ligament, right? So that's that little black part that I tried to like shade in here. That's periodontal ligament. And what it is, it's generally like periosteum, whose collagen and fibers are going to be kind of modified a little bit. So they actually go into the bone on either side and they hold it together. So it holds the tooth pretty firmly in the alveolus for the most part. And let's see, the gums, right? So the gums are the gingiva, right? And so gingivitis is inflammation of the gums. And that's going to cover the alveolar spaces. Here's that dentition again. So here is the baby teeth. So this is also known as the deciduous teeth, right? And so generally here we got like two little molars, and then it jumps right to canine, right? Which is different from the adult because like we've got this like huge like setup, right, of like five molars and premolars all together, and they've like only got two. So that's a lot of the real estate in the mouth. Canines, everybody gets one canine. You get two incisors, a front incisor, and a lateral incisor. And so that's kind of how that goes. This is where we get a total arcade of 32 in the adult, right? And so for the kiddos, we're really going to max out at like 20. Right. Okay. I guess that's kind of it. You know what? Something else that I think is really useful is this age at eruption is really good for being able to determine age of certain individuals. So this will kind of tell you when they start coming in months, right? So you got a really cranky 2 year. So like especially these ones, if you have kiddos that are really just crying a lot and they're going through, it's a hard, you know, around the age of 2, like give or take, like 18 months to like, I guess like 2.5 years old, and they're really struggling. These, as they come in, actually can sometimes cause so much inflammation in the gum and the tissue around it. They actually cause inflammation in the ear tube, right? And can cause ear infections. So something to watch out for those little guys, because in humans, the adult ear, right? Like ours does this thing where it drains, right? And it's tilted, it goes down. Hello. It's like a funny person. My goodness. And then in the baby, it's a little bit different. So here's their ear. And so theirs like goes flat, right? And so it's prone to infection because it can't physically drain the way the adults does. So just keep that in mind. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I hope that was helpful, and I hope you are all out there somewhere having a wonderful day. Bye-bye.